Harvey Company or Harvey Industries for our group case assignment. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Next slide. Next slide.
Okay, so just as a general overview, we'll go over the background of Harvey Industries or Corporation. We will go over the current inventory control system that the case gave us. The case also said to give some recommendations to the company, and we'll also go over that. And we'll conclude with a brief summary. I'll hand it over to Branko.
Yes, sir.
All
All right. So just to give a little overview, a little background information about the company. Harvey Industries is a Wisconsin company, and they've been experiencing a loss of financial gains over the past 4 years. The company specializes in assembly of high-pressure washer systems and in the sale of repair parts for these systems. The products range from small portable high-pressure washers to large industrial installations for snow removal for vehicles stored outdoors, for example. Some typical uses for the high-pressure water cleaner include automobiles, airplanes, building maintenance, barns, engines, ice cream plants, lift trucks, machinery, and swimming pools. And some industrial customers include General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Delta Airlines, United Parcel Service, and the Shell Oil Company. I'll go back. Okay, so as we were hired as a consultant, all four of us, and there has been an overview of the operations. So during this overview, there has been improvement opportunities identified to decrease waste and increase profit. There will be suggestions made that will allow the company to manage inventory and supplies more cost effectively. And these recommendations will assist in changing the current financial situation they are experiencing of a negative return of sales, which is a negative 1.39% right now, which you get by dividing the net loss, which is $17,174, over the total sales, which is $1,238,674.
Yes, the current inventory control system consists of orders for stock replenishment, which are made by the stockroom foreman, the purchasing and manufacturing manager. The majority of the inventory transactions are for repairs and parts for suppliers used by car wash, such as paper, towel, or wax concentrate. The stockroom is in general well organized. Each vendor has his own area with his item. And there are two employees working in the stockroom. One is the stockroom foreman and the other is his assistant. The assembly area has some inventory at the shop floor. This consists of low value items such as nuts and bolts. The assembly area is often out of items, so it comes to downtime for the assembly line. And there's also no paperwork for items which are needed for the assembly floor.
Awesome. Okay, so as a group, we came up with 4 recommendations in total that we recommended to the new president, saying, hey, you want to increase profits and make this company last a long time, so here's what you need to do. So the first point that we have, they need to check the inventory more often. It says in the case that the employees don't check it often, and therefore they're confused and they're disorganized about, how much to order, and, are they over their budget for the holding costs, or they're under budget. So they're really, they're not doing much checking in their inventory. So the holding costs can add up significantly if they don't check it often. We saw by our candy game that, the holding costs can drastically rise, and when, we over order or under order, so it can significantly rise if they don't check it often. Okay, and a way to check it more often is have a set fixed schedule of when to check it. for example, the president could mandate, okay, we're going to take inventory every Wednesday at 2 o'clock or whatever, and then that'll give them some continuity on how to check the inventory in a structured manner, so that they'll have a set schedule, and then they'll be able to just have that continuity for future reference, and be a little more organized. When filling out the reports in their current inventory system, they weren't very specific on what parts they needed. Calculating the runtime and the run cost for the products would benefit them, because it'll a lot. In addition to having a set schedule of when to order things, it'll give them a set amount of when to order. Okay, their cycle time. Every 2 weeks, every 1 week, every day, something like that. So it's important that they calculate the run and cycle time for products that they quickly go through. Okay, and another thing that they should calculate with their numbers is the economic order quantity. Okay, this is important because if they don't calculate it, they won't know the optimum level in which they can save money and raise their profits. Okay, so calculating the runtime, cycle time, and economic order quantity were the two main factors that we saw that the company wasn't using. In the case, they didn't give us a lot to work with. It was more of an abstract kind of thing, not a lot of data. So we came up with the group. We didn't see them using any of the methods that we applied in the class, and that's what we recommended to the president. Hand over to Aaron.
And two other recommendations that can be made about this inventory system is the actual system that they use to keep track of what they have. Right now, all they do is order in stock, they put it where it's supposed to be, and then they take it out whenever they need it to put parts together, whenever they have orders to fill. They don't really keep track, once product comes in, of what they actually have there in their stock. And so one recommendation that we made is to implement a perpetual inventory system, which is an electronic system that keeps track of orders coming in. It keeps track of parts that is taken from inventory locations and used in orders. It's a very accurate system. It would help them to cut costs tremendously by having a very accurate reading on what inventory they actually have in store. And it will also allow them to set a minimum maximum system, which would allow them to, say, carry more of products that they know flow through the inventory more often and more quickly, and also set the minimums on these products so that once a product gets down to a certain level that they have in their system actually sometimes can automatically order those parts from vendors, so that person doesn't actually have to fill out a physical order. It doesn't have to go and count that inventory and be like, oh, we need this. The inventory system would keep track of that and would automatically refill those inventory locations when needed.
And in addition to that, this would fit in perfectly with economic order quantity. As we mentioned before, it's important for them to have specific numbers to work with. This all ties in together as in a one big, hey, fix your inventory practices. So, okay.
Yeah, and also in the assembly area inventory, which is different than the storeroom that they have, the assembly area, they actually kept stock of the low-cost items like nuts, bolts, all kinds of fasteners that they use to actually put together these different parts. And so our recommendation for this area was to actually use vendor managed inventory, or VMI, which is actually, I work for an industrial supplier, and that's something that we do and that we work with every day, is that we actually have locations on the store floor where you call them bins or bin stock, where you keep certain amounts of bolts and nuts and screws and stuff like that.
Wait, you work for Fastenal?
I do work for
I
Fastenal.
don't work for Fastenal.
That's cool, man.
I know exactly.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so we have bin stocks, and we fill them up, and so it takes one thing off the plate of the manufacturer, instead of having to go out there all the time and, okay, we're out of these bolts, we're out of these nuts, let's put together an order. The people from the company, from the vendor, actually come to your company, probably once or twice a week if you go through a lot of them, and they check to see what you're low of, and they order it on themselves. And so you don't have to handle any of that. They handle it all, and you just get billed like for every order they bring out. And oftentimes, whenever you have a vendor managed inventory, I know this with Fastenal, you have an agreement that you'll spend a certain dollar amount every month, which most people, they automatically get that anyway because that's just how much they use.
Mm-hmm.
And when you meet those, you don't get charged for the service at all because they make money on the bolts, and it's money that they didn't have. And so you don't get charged for the inventory service. You actually just get charged for the parts. And so this would be a huge help because it lower cost, and it would take things off the plate of the people who are actually managing the inventory. It's just one less thing that they have to worry about, so they can focus on their actual inventory.
So just as a summary, we went over the background of this industry. We went over their current inventory control system. We also went over the recommendations, and oh boy, are there any questions?
A question: which company do you work with, Sam? The same company?
Fastenal.
Fastenal. So what's type of company? Which industry?
It's an industrial supplier. It supplies mostly like fasteners, like screws, nuts, and bolts.
Oh, okay.
We also do.
So is that the ACE or like this type of industry? Like ACE?
Like
ACE. So it's like also.
It's almost like kind of like an Ace Hardware store, but it's a little bit more
Oh,
advanced.
Oh, okay, I see.
there's a lot of stuff, and they offer a lot more services.
Oh, okay,
actually,
I see.
like
So not just selling, but also provide a service.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good example. You guys should communicate.
Definitely.
Any other questions for them? The first team? Good. Thank you for the presentation. Second team.
No, good.
You working? I working too, man.
Yeah, because parents are going to be talking like the whole time. So it's good, like you make focus. You know what I mean? That's always good.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Our group 2 did a company called UPD. It's a manufacturing company for healthcare. Just gonna go over what they're about real quick. UPD is a healthcare supplier, which you can use in the hospital or in the home. But they recently have been experiencing steady demand for its products, and their purchasing manager is worried they won't have enough. So we're gonna come in and see what their problem is. Their main product is a blood pressure kit. Recently, their supplier was bought out by a company, and their purchasing manager has been using the same system, the 6-week interval system, but they want to go to another system to see if it will reduce any costs. So now we're gonna see if they can use another method to see if they can reduce costs.
Okay, in this case, we can find the order cost is 32 and the weekly demand and the holding cost. And we want to use the UQ model to survive this problem. And with the formula, we can get the EOQ is 267. And we also can get the order cycle is 3 weeks. Use those cost, order cost, demand, and the holding cost. And we can get the total cost is 21.35. And in this problem, the company gave us is 6 weeks. And in 6 weeks, we can get another EOQ and the total cost.
So when we use the 6 weeks, Q is 534, and we can get total cost of 6 weeks by 334 divided 2 multiply 0.08 plus 89 divided by 534 multiply 32. So it's 26.69. So we calculate the total cost plus the benefit. So we total 6 week total cost minus 3 week total cost. So it gives $5.34. It's much better, more benefit.
So this is the per week total cost. That's right?
Yes.
It's per week. So the holding cost is 8 cents per week.
Yes.
It's 0.08. So it's the holding cost is per week because you have to make it very clear because otherwise people will see why it's so low, $26. So it's per week cost.
Per week.
So in conclusion, we can compare to the 6 weeks and the 3 weeks. The cost of the 3 weeks cost is much cheaper than the previous that they use in 5 years. So the UPD manufacturers has a strong reason to change the ordering size. So the first reason to change the ordering size, the cycle time is they have a steady demand in healthcare field, and they are trying to reduce the cost by reviewing the inventory process. So the 3 weeks 3 weeks cost is much cheaper. So they need to change it, and they use that previous system for 5 years. They have a strong kind of reason. So that's the conclusion.
Any questions for this team? EOQ? Straightforward. Thank you. For 3. Sure. Team 3 has a pretty complex case.
Here it is. This week up. This week up. Yeah, man, I took Coleman to the next line and I freaking look like it. It's good. This nigga ain't getting over it. It's great, but at the same time, man, you control your brain. I hate that, man.
We're 4 college students.
I won't lose anything. If anything I lost, I will say you submit the income tax report.
There you go.
So I guess my question.
Alright, so my name is Ryan Nadeau.
I'm Chris Reagan.
I'm Alex Pitt. Jack Slavin. Nehemiah Johnson.
We had a company called B&L Incorporated. They're a big rig company, so they manufacture trailers for big rigs and 18-wheelers. The manager of the company was
Brian Wilson.
given.
Oh, I thought you were thinking of name.
Oh no! Well, yeah, his name was Brian Wilson, and he was given the job to They currently do in-house manufacturing for the trailers, and he was given the job to decide if they could be more efficient by either cutting costs for the in-house manufacturing or outsourcing the manufacturing of the trailers to another company. And that was the decision we had to analyze for the case.
At first, it was kind of tough to try to figure out which one they should do, if they should outsource or not. But when it came down to it, we figured out that the EOQ was probably the best way to do that, which the EOQ is economic order quantity, and it's the order quantity that minimizes the holding and ordering costs. So pretty much we had to figure out which way was cheaper, to outsource or to keep making it in the company. This is just basic information that was given in the case. It was it's the parts to create the outrigger bracket, which is T178, and then as you can see, the prices are kind of, for the most part, kind of close, except for the T77 to the T69 and the T70. So that kind of plays a role into which one's cheaper or not. And this is basically the same chart, but we showed the calculations of the difference. And as you can see, the total is 4190, which is a pretty big margin for oh, you're good. And this is more stuff that was given in the case, which we were given that the B&L produces 40 trailers per year and creates 40 brackets per year, so or per trailer. So basically to find out how many trailers they made per year, we had to multiply the amount produced and the brackets the brackets that, or the trailers that are needed for each bracket, which is 800 annually. And as seen in the last chart, we saw that the total cost for B&L was $150.10 to create one bracket. And also given in the case was a holding cost, which they said was 20% of the total cost. So for Mays, who had a total of $108.20, to find the holding cost was basically 0.2 times the total, which gave us 21.64.
And Mays, just to piggyback on that, Mays is the outsourcing company that already does business with us that that outsources different products of ours.
And then also given was the ordering cost, which was basically just $75. And this was also the stuff that I already talked about on the last slide. And if you take the EOQ model and plug it in with all these numbers that we calculated and were given, you can go to the next one. This is basically what you get. And we came down to the answer of 75 brackets for the EOQ.
So overall, whether or not to outsource, we decided that the company should outsource and combine in-house production because we discovered that production costs will be reduced by 72% by outsourcing the T67, T69 models, but this to include the T70 because it will be kept in-house.
And basically, an outrigger bracket is a bracket that's composed of 4 sub-assembly parts, and the sub-assembly parts are welded together. So the big question is whether you keep it in-house to weld it or outsource the actual production of the sub-assembly parts, and that includes the sub-assembly parts as well as the welding in the case's example. The outsourcing company is Mays, and they're a current supplier. They're also local, so there's a lot of benefits to it. However, some of the negatives are that Mays, based on our calculations, has only 20% fixed cost. So that means there's 80% variable cost of the pricing that we were given. The other problem is that it was FOB B&L. So for that, if anything happens, even though it's a local company and we can go find them and get it remade and stuff like that, the liability goes on B&L. So that's a big downfall to the outsourcing agreement. So what we talked about is getting the outrigger brackets, which are basically extensions of a flatbed truck, so that they can be pulled out, swung out, or hooked on, so that agriculture equipment, big tractors and stuff like that, the oversized loads can fit. They're the extension pieces on the flatbed trucks that actually make the equipment fit on the trucks. So what we talked about is using T-75 and T-67 and T-69, which are two of the 4 sub-assembly parts, outsourcing just those two because those were the ones that they could do cheaper compared to what we could do cheaper. That means we would have to keep T-70 in-house because T-70 is actually a welding process, and it's the final welding process. It's a manual process. So if we want to do that, then we have to keep it in-house in order to put all the parts together and make the final bracket. So that's kind of where we got the idea from for making it more efficient and kind of combining in-house and outsourcing to create one smooth, efficient system to handle lead time and to handle the amount of demand based on the fiscal year that they're dealing with. So, anybody have any questions?
Question? Good. This time we have plenty of time. This presentation. Still remember last time?
We took 20 minutes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This time you should take it.
No more 4 groups.
Come on. So you have 23 minutes for the team, okay?
Yes. Try to shorten it up here to that.
Then Q&A session for the rest 15 minutes. You just finished.
Yeah, that's what's up.
We can probably shorten it up to that.
Never know where to stand.
Right? I want to be to the side.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Alright, so we're group 4. My name's Kristen. Alright, and we have.
So what?
Jay?
You can talk with her.
Oh, my name is Bernard. I don't know you.
My name is Ben Schmucker.
And then I'm Sam the Shield.
Okay, I'll do this.
Yeah, use it.
The first question isn't up there, but it goes along with like the benefits and the risk of why they have low inventory. For this company, they keep really low inventory as far as raw materials and like just anything in the store. And the reason for this is to reduce holding costs, reduce ordering costs, easier organization. So like since they have less inventory in-house, it allows for more space and when they don't need like such a big warehouse or a store to operate. And also waste can be minimized. The risk of having such low inventory is cannot satisfy high demand. So therefore, like since raw materials it's on a just-in-time basis, like the inventory system. So therefore, like as they're running out, it's kind of being called in. It's like that. Like they don't have any extra. So if something was to happen in the raw material process or level like the distribution, then therefore like the store would get held up and they wouldn't be able to get the raw materials in time. And like I said, supplier might not be able to supply on a short notice. Say, just like if they get a demand like a rush, anytime there's going to be a rush or like an excess of demand that day that they didn't account for, they won't be able to supply that. So they'll just run out. And that's pretty much like the risk.
Piggyback. Okay, well, I guess I'll talk. Just for this slide right here, why EOQ is probably the best inventory model for Brewer's Bagels. Our game plan was really to find what is the best order quantity, which will minimize the holding inventory for ordering products in general. And in my opinion, what I said was it would be done, this would be probably the best method to be done in order to minimize variable inventory costs for the products. Like probably when I was researching a lot of this information, pretty much I wanted to focus on the simplistic approach of minimizing and having more profit for the entire company while less spending. So what I was able to do was I was able to say like, okay, well, what can we do? So by choosing this model that was going to help our inventory system, we could actually have a lot more sales that can happen in different different parts of the year, depending on how many people eat bagels, during the summertime, wintertime, fall, and spring. So just from looking at that, I was able to really have an entire benefit where a lot of the inventory costs will be more fixed, order expenses, and then it'll become more prevalent in due time. That's all, bro.
And then several advantages that Bruegger's uses that sets them apart from the rest of the bagel industry is really the quality of their product, because the bagel industry is relatively new, but Bruegger's kind of stand alone in the fact that they provide a lot of consistency and high standards of excellence amongst all their stores, and it's what kind of has kept them around, because there's been a lot of competition concerning entry into the market since it's a new industry and there's profit to be made. But Bruegger's, by maintaining trust among the supply chain and establishing that high level of quality control, you could say, has kept their customers coming back.
One of the biggest things is actually like just being able to have a machine on site instead of having to go to, having a machine on site, because that gives the opportunity to make your product fresh every day and create the same amount of consistency and quality that the customers are looking for. If you produce at a plant, that also gives you an opportunity to do the same things, but just ship it out and then produce just the actual bagel on site instead of having to find the raw materials and breaking them all in and creating a cluster. And then like if you find defective material, you can actually send them back to the plant. They can chop them up and then repackage it and then bring it back, and you can have bagel bites. You can also keep the recipe to yourself if you produce on at a different plant rather than producing on site, because one thing is keeping your recipe a secret is very important to any industry. Yeah.
Sure.
You can go to the next slide.
So who will present the last slide? I'm still waiting for the person to present.
So pretty much the reason for the just-in-time inventory system, they judge the appearances, taste, consistency, and service. So all those reasons were one of the reasons they went with the just-in-time delivery system to keep the product fresh. Choosing suppliers of ingredients, monitoring it, keeping equipment in good working conditions. Watch for deformed bagels and remove them. They're making sure their their employees are doing that. That way they, people don't look at their product as inferior or anything like that. Pretty much it just goes from getting put in the machine. They make it in a warehouse and they send up suppliers, and where's the, hold on. Whoa.
Anything to add?
Let me see.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you can see, this is how it pretty much gets taken from, this is how they keep the consistency right here. Like they all gets put into a mixer and it shakes them, every single one. Some of them obviously do come out bad, and then they ship them to the warehouse to their different, say, plants, which they have over 450 shops, and pretty much on average, each one does around $800,000. So that's pretty good overall.
Any questions about that
Bagels
team?
for everybody.
Any questions?
Questions, comments, concerns?
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
We will have to end this class early this time. If nobody
man.
complains. So, I already posted homework 3 in Blackboard. The due date is the last day of the class, so it's next Wednesday. So yeah, you have about 2 weeks to do that. So let me know if you have any questions when you are trying to do the homework. Everybody enjoying the weekend. We'll see you on next Monday.